I'm Chief Warrant Officer 4 Victor Pinion, U.S. Navy retired, telling some of my sea stories from my naval career as I was involved. This one is the USS Oriskany Fire, which resulted in the death of 44 men. I was directly involved in this. It was the first launch of the day. It was scheduled to go at 0700. The 5 minutes till launch light had just popped on. So it was 5 minutes till 7 in the morning. I noticed a white wisp of smoke coming up the starboard side directly below me. I was in the catwalk at the catapult deckage operator station. I leaned over to see where that smoke was coming from. Just as two helicopters down there, they were full of fuel, exploded. A thunderous explosion, blowing fire way high, and there are pictures of it that you can pull up. That explosion, the shock of it, blew me back up out of that catwalk, all the way back up onto the flight deck, 20 feet back from the deck edge. I landed on my feet. I don't remember flying through the air, but I had to have. I noticed the fire burning, catching the paint on the gun tub on fire. I manned up a 4-inch fire hose, got a bunch of men on it behind me, and I'm blasting the fire off of that gun tub, when thick black smoke enveloped us. And my fire hose got heavier and heavier as the men behind me abandoned it, trying to find some place that they could breathe. I ended up the only person on this 4-inch fire hose, and I'm choking, gagging, coughing. I'm dying. So you're desperate. You can't, anything. So I put it on fog and sat out on the hose and pulled it up and put my face in that spray, hoping I could get a little air. Well, you can't breathe water any better than you can breathe heavy smoke. So I'm choking, gagging, coughing, drowning. I shut it down and I start what I thought may have been going aft. I've got my hands up like this, ink dark, black smoke, choking, coughing, gagging. I've got to get a breath of air. I'm going to die. This captain is turning the ship, and not white, but a clear pocket of air whipped right over me. And here I am, face to face with his ship's executive officer. He's trying to go forward while I'm trying to go aft, trying to find a place I can breathe. He's not wearing any breathing apparatus either, but he's trying to get up there and take charge. Brave man, brave man. But his face and mine were probably very much like black from the black smoke, with clear tear streaks down here in the corner of my mouth, down my nose. And thank God for that breath of fresh air, because the captain kept turning the ship to blow the smoke off to the starboard side so that we could continue fighting the fire. Well, we did continue fighting that fire. And I remember vividly so many things. I'm shortening the story to try to fit it within 20 minutes. I looked forward on the flight deck. The ship had a wooden flight deck, and that whole forward third of the ship's flight deck looked like a boiling pot with big boils of water. The whole thing all over the forward, it looked like, reminded me, and with heat tendrils coming up from it. Okay, now I've got catapult crew members that are below decks. I'm going to try to find them because the fire has spread rapidly throughout the whole forward third of the ship. And my retraction engine room for the catapults is on fire. So I put an OBA on. Well, before I did that though, I sent 2 men down to the main control consoles to blow down the steam receivers, which they did. And one of them rescued a pilot from a stateroom next door to his main control room. Gruesome story there, but I won't tell it. In any case, I put an OBA on and I led a hose team into the catapult retraction engine room to see if any of my men are trapped in there. Well, that engine room is ablaze. Really ablaze. And as I'm fighting my way in there, my men had gotten out, of course. But I jammed my knee against a bulkhead that was real hot. and I got a kneecap-sized blister on my right knee from that. That's the only injury that I got during that fire. I never went to sick bay with it. In any case, I had called Damage Control Central to have them shut off the electrical power to that engine room. And they told me that they had. I'd called them via sound-part phone. Well, as I'm fighting my way into that engine room, my fire hose is blasting the bulkheads and stuff, and they had not shut off all the power to it, and the whole world started exploding in sparks and streaks like lightning and a million billion sparks dancing everywhere. I didn't get shocked, but I did back out of there and told them on the sound-part phones that the current was still on in that engine room. But I didn't go back because my men had gotten out. Right near that engine room was a battle dressing station that was V4 divisions, the aviation fuels crew, coffee locker and lounge. 4 men were in that lounge and had been killed in there. And they had fell to the deck and fried. And rescue crews go in there, and the first one, they're carrying him out of there. And the man got him in his arms like this, but the man's arms are stiff. He's got him face up. Well, the whole bottom part of both of his arms were all fried flat and bubbled around the edges, just like frying any other kind of meat. And the whole side of his face was fried. I grabbed a hold of his arms to help him get him out through the watertight door out into the gun tub. When I let go, my hands were coated with his greasy skin. I didn't puke, but I almost did. I washed that off, got that all washed off in a fire hose. But I didn't grab hold of anybody else. They got the rest of them out. And now I go back topside. And there was a problem with, they thought a couple of men were trapped in radio 2, which was access to it was on the starboard side from the catwalk. I went over there still wearing my OBA, and I went into radio 2 to try to find any 2 men that may be in there. Well, the water was knee knocker high, which is almost knee deep. And during that era, the radio machine, all of that equipment in there was big banks of electronic equipment, radios and such, communication equipment. So I'm wading through that water with my battle lantern shining through, looking for the men, when an electric cable broke and fell into the water. And all over that room is electric sparks dancing all over, million, billion sparks all over the place, all around me. I broke out in hives, but I didn't get shocked. I backed out of there, did not get shocked. Those 2 men had gotten out. Okay, I took my OBA off. I'm done going below decks. We fought that fire for like 4 hours, getting control of it. It was difficult to get control of it. We pumped so much water into the bow, the forward third of that ship, that it's going bow down with the weight of the excess water in the whole forward third of the ship. We had men going in and searching through trying to rescue people. We had a lot of people that died. 44 men died. And a bunch of others got in showers, turned the water on, so forth, trying to survive. And like the power's off, and battle lanterns, half of them were gone. And but people would sit in the showers with the water running on them to survive. And we had this young man in the catapult crew who was, he was a hard worker, but he goofed off a lot. And he had been busted from third class down to airman because he was UA when the ship's in the Philippines. He went down. I'm sure he was looking for what he could find in officers' country. A lot of the officers had their staterooms up there. And he's going around, and he managed to rescue a whole bunch of those officers that were trapped down there. Because he had a battle lantern, and he knew how he had gotten in there, and he led them out. Well, after we recovered from this, and while we were back in the States undergoing fire damage repair, he had been written up for a big medal, and as the captain pinned it on his chest, the medal is to ABE-3, the man's name. The captain noticed that he's an airman. He says, what gives here, ABE-3? This medal says you're ABE-3. You're wearing airman stripes. He said, well, Captain, you busted me. And the captain says, put in a request sheet and I'll reinstate you. So then that happened. In any case, everybody wanted to contact their families. My wife was pregnant, due to deliver our daughter in Illinois. She was living with her parents in Illinois while I'm deployed. Everybody on the ship, we didn't have the communications we got nowadays. They only had like several phones, radio phones, and there was a big long line for each one of them. And they allotted 5 minutes to each man. And people that weren't really even involved in fighting a fire, but they still had families back in the States that were worried. Well, my wife was very worried. The first she heard of it was on the radio, where they reported that the USS Oriskany is now sinking. My ship. And she's worried sick. I did not get a hold of her until the following day, 2 days later, because people were still flogging those phones. I mean, they hogging the phones. I called her from a phone booth on the pier at Subic Bay. And our baby had not been born yet. She knew, because I had briefed her a number of times, that if I get seriously injured or killed, they will notify you within 24 hours. So if you haven't been notified within 24 hours, you can assume that I'm safe. So she took that to heart and didn't worry as much. So all of y'all watching this, keep your families informed. It's worthwhile. Okay. We went into the shipyard at Hunters Point in San Francisco. No, it wasn't Hunters Point. It was Bremerton, Washington, for fire damage repair. And I took leave and went home. But before the ship got back to the States, I was right in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, the furthest point you can get in the northern Pacific Ocean from land. And the captain had called an abandoned ship drill. That's when my daughter was born. My daughter Teresa was born. I didn't know that until I got back to the States and called my wife from a phone booth on the pier. And she was already home with the baby. And I took leave as soon as I could and went back to Illinois and picked her and family up, and we came back out to Washington State, set up housekeeping. Okay, end of this story.